Most people think that automations is about saving time or cutting down the headcount of a business or setting up a shiny dashboard that nobody's going to read. But that is simply not the reason why you want to be getting into this technology and automating your business. The real reason to automate is really simple. It is simply to increase the revenue per employee. And that is a metric that's really going to compound over the years. And in the next few years, it's going to be this metric that separates the lean killers from bloated teams. But that's not the only number. Real automations, they move key business metrics such as revenue per employee. Has your cost per lead gone down? Your sales cycle time, has that decreased? And have you increased your bottom line? Tracking metrics such as these to define the success criteria of an automation is what real success looks like. And let me show you an example of what this looks like in real operations. So this is, for instance, a content infrastructure where, let's say, right now you got one marketer, and what their week looks like is they're essentially brainstorming everything, they're writing everything from scratch and manually scheduling posts. And at most what they're doing is maybe you get 4 to 5 posts a month if you're lucky. But now, on the right hand side, as we can see, let's add a system over here. Let's add an automation that allows us to auto-generate ideas along with SEO scoring. Allow us to directly draft posts in your brand voice and automatically load them onto Airtable or Notion for review. So now, instead, this is a key highlight I want to put emphasis on. Instead of now writing posts or creating content, all your team is simply doing is they're approving the content. And you have a real transformation where you're going from 4 to 5 posts a week to essentially 30 to 60, 50 plus posts without working harder. The key metrics it drives is now you have 10x the output with the same amount of time. And keep in mind, it is still the same team. It is still the same time, but now you have 10x the output. And that is exactly how the revenue per employee also leads to a jump, because now you're increasing your bottom line. The more content you put out there, the more your leads see you, the more they engage with you, the more they trust you, which directly leads to more leads and essentially an increase in the revenue per employee without burning your team out. And we can take this in regards to another example in terms of a sales infrastructure in this case, where let's take an example of your sales team. Right now, your team is most likely manually outreaching to everyone. They're sourcing the leads. They're putting in generic copy-paste messages to every single lead. And they're doing all the admin work and barely closing as they're already burnt out. They're exhausted. And if you think about it, there's so much friction in every step of this process. Manual outreach, manually doing everything, putting in generic copy-paste messages, unqualified leads, and just essentially taking in all the work by themselves. But what happens now if you remove all this friction and implement a system that does all the grunt work for them so they can just focus on closing deals, doing what they do best themselves? And a great example of this is an AI-powered sales infrastructure where AI is pulling in the high-intent leads daily, having hyper-personalized messages being sent out automatically to them, where the CRM is also syncing all the information back into it. What this leads to is the sales reps only focusing on closing, where your pipeline is now growing 3 to 5x the times, and you're having more deals being closed. And a great example of this is, as we can see, to really put it simplistically, where your sales reps are focusing 100% now on closing. You have shorter sales cycles as we're nurturing the leads, where your pipeline can 3 to 5x. The reps are closing deals weekly instead of monthly, shorter sales cycles, higher revenue per employee, and the cost per lead has once again gone down. So you didn't automate sales. You just removed all the resistance from revenue and your manual grunt work, which your sales reps were focusing on. So something I really want to put emphasis on once again is that what are you really automating? You need to question this every single time. You're not automating tasks. You're not automating workflows. You're automating the output per operator or employee. And you need to be asking yourself whenever you have one of these systems implemented, has your revenue per employee gone up? Has the cost per lead gone down? Has the sales cycle become shorter? Or you've not seen a clear improvement in a metric that drives business growth? You did not build yourself an automation. You just built yourself the wrong system. And instead of focusing on more tools and more automations, the best move is to go back to strategy, because you just ended up building a noisy machine instead. And a really clean way to think about automations is that it's not about replacing people, but it's rather about wrapping the best members in your team in an exoskeleton so they get clean inputs and all the grunt work is automated and they focus on high leverage activities and actions. One rep can now do what it used to take 10 before. And that's the name of the game, really. And a great example of seeing how this can be done is through, full end infrastructures. Like this is our sales infrastructure that we implement.